Frith patted Sam on the back with his metal hand. "Go on, young man. They want to hear from you." Sam had his head lowered. He nodded at Frith and stepped through the doors onto the balcony overlooking the Posar's Oblivion maintenance bay. The crowd cheered as they saw him. Sam looked over their faces, numerous races, men, women, some more metal than flesh, all looking at him smiling and cheering. Sam's nerves had him moving slowly toward the rail. He coughed, his calm echoing out through everyone's personal speakers. The crowd started to quiet. Sam then saw the people standing in the back row, the Tor soldiers. Asterion stood taller and gave Sam a curt nod. Sam smiled and gripped the rail. "I don't deserve what you all have done for me," Sam said as he looked over the assembled humanoids. I'm not really. I don't like talking like this. I avoid mostly, and have most my life." He looked down for a moment. "I like fixing things. I never planned to be where I am in front of you, thanking you here today." He looked back up, holding back his emotions. "I don't know the vast majority of you. You didn't come here because you knew me. You came here because you felt what it would be like if I were you. That, sympathy, empathy, I don't know. But you came." Sam smiled and shook his head. "You stupid ass, crazy, old head, motherfuckers. I'm thankful for every goddamn one of you." The crowd roared. Someone near the front shouted, "I'd fucking do it 1,000 times!" Another shouted, "Nobody left behind!" Sam nodded, smiling. "I thought I would be okay. I like being alone, but I'll be honest. I need people around, even if it's me just being quiet and listening. I missed people." He started tearing up. Frith walked up beside him and patted him on the shoulder. "We know, brother," Frith said, and he stepped up to the rail. "Sam?" Sam looked at Frith. "I think I speak on behalf of my crew when I ask this, but can we get a tour of your station we've heard so much about?" Sam laughed and looked out at everyone. "Guess we're exiles together. Why not?" He looked back at Frith. "We have a constitution there." He looked back out at everyone. "Every species elects their representative. At the time, I was the only true human, and I kinda made myself president." Sam sighed and looked at Frith. "We're going to need to do a new vote." Frith laughed. "Crew of the Posar." "Yes, sir," the crowd replied. "Do any of you want the duties and responsibilities of running the only human space station on this side of the universe? If you do, raise a hand. Holler if you want." Silence. "Anyone?" a voice in the back shouted. "Fuck politicians! Let Sam keep the crap job!" Frith laughed and turned back to Sam. "Keep the whiskey flowing, bud, and you've got my vote." Sam chuckled. "Seriously, please. I'm not qualified for this." Frith leaned close into Sam's ear. "Out of everyone here, you're the most qualified. We don't know shit about these creatures." Sam patted Admiral Frith on the shoulder. "All right, I'll keep it up, but for the scribblers we will have to actually do a vote and have it counted and notarized." Frith leaned back, staring at Sam. "The little guys in the war rigs? They're sticklers like that?" Sam laughed. "The majority are lawyers. The knights are kinda their nerds." Frith's eyes widened. "All right." He looked out at the crowd. "All right, everyone, let's get this ship on its way." He turned, turning Sam with him, their comms switching off broadcast. "Do you think us showing up is going to cause an issue?" They stepped through the door to the interior halls of the Posar. Sam shook his head. "No, honestly, I could use the help. Out here, everything it seems is chaos. People's fighting, trading. Everything is done out of pure and utter selfishness, it seems. I think more people may actually help these creatures out here." Frith sighed. "Or make it worse." Pouchcheek had arrived on a Kratic transport ship. She was escorted through Cathu with 2 Scribbler Knights and 3 Fuimos. They were met at the hovercraft dock by a crawfishian. The carapaced creature splayed its numerous appendages out. "Welcome, Ambassador Pouchcheek. I am Ulkshik. Did you bring payment?" Pouchcheek clicked a file on her arm display. He looked at his optics as the clams were transferred. "Very well then, we will take you. Follow me." Ulkshik walked down the docks onto a hovercraft manned by 4 other crawfishians. Ulkshik stepped to the center steering station and looked over his crew. "Mind your mouth holes. We have Tarpa guests here. They will be watching as we work. Ulkshik looked over at the visitors from Twain. Get comfortable. We are departing. Ulkshik touched the controls, and the craft slowly hovered out of the dock, a few feet off the ground. It moved over to the protective field array, and slowly exited out the shields of Cthulhu. Once in the open air, Ulkshik opened her up. He sped over the plains, new plant shoots peeking out of the charred soil at them. Pouchcheek looked over the craft, its shield emitters at the rear, and the crawfishians each holding a large silver tube-like weapon. She walked over to Ulkshik and pointed at the weapons. Are those the Hummer weapons? Ulkshik brushed his mandibles with a series of inner tongues. They are, as is the shield. It will keep them at bay. Do not worry, little bug. You are safe on my ship. She tilted her head. How long till we get to see them in action? Ulkshik looked out over the horizon. I have word. There are numerous dens in a broken city to the west. We will have a good harvest there. She looked over at Knights. Be prepared. She then looked at one of the Fuimos. Record everything. I want notes on this. The Knights nodded in human fashion. The Fuimos fluttered several feathery appendages to signal understanding. Ulkshik slowed the vehicle as it hovered over the broken rocks of the ruined city. Within moments of entering, a low hiss was heard. It was echoed by others. Rocks fell as something unseen disturbed them. The crawfishians powered up their Hummer cannons. A massive herbivore, now Gallic-controlled, rose up from the rubble. It opened its mouth, launching 4 tethered fanged creatures at the ship. The 4 creatures fell limp as they entered the emitter field, and then started twitching. A crawfishian aimed a cannon at the larger herbivore, and fired. A low-frequency hum blasted into the Galakian. It fell, spasming on the ground. Pouchcheek looked over the rail. The Gallic were immobilized. The undercarriage of the craft opened up and robotic arms began pulling the bodies in. Ulkshik walked over and looked with her. Simple, really. They come right to you every time. He slithered his tongues over his mouth parts. The decomposition has just started. Good flavors. He walked back to his steering rig. Pouchcheek walked over to one of the Fuimos. Did you get the frequencies needed? Some, yes. We will keep recording. By the time we return, we should have enough data. She bobbed her ears. Good. The Senate will like what we find here. In Cthulhu, a group of 5 air stepped off the newly repaired space elevator. They entered into the city proper, bustling with Kawaru. They looked at each other, transferring information, and then in unison, they walked across the street towards the grand auditorium. The air were granted audience with the Gree. The 5 stood before the great eye. The Gree of Cthulhu looked down at the creatures. Another of the great arm races wishes to be seen amongst the Gree? Tell me, Air, why have you come? The one in front offered its hands up in submission. We have been tasked to help this world. You have given permissions to others, and we would like same permissions. And what permissions are those exactly? Tell me what it is the Air want from us. The Air stood straighter. The preservers. You are allowing them to nest here, to study here. We wish to be near them. The Gree of Cthulhu spread the ideas out to his fellows. They processed it and sent their thoughts back. The Gree spoke. We know of your bargain struck with the human. We know what you are capable of. Many in this city need help. You will honor the Clouder Accord, work here, heal our peoples. The Air conversed, then the lead one answered. It is what we do. It is why we are here. We are assigned to your world. We will help it as long as we are here. Then your residency is granted. The Gree blinked long. Spitzlittle walked through the Tsar, Novacore walking in his holographic form beside her. She was looking over transmissions coming from Pouchcheek. You getting this back to orbit? Nova bobbed his ears. Of course. And Sam? He is en route back to Twain? Yes, the Posar is leaving out. Spitzlittle looked over the readouts of the stations in orbit around Kawaru Prime. I want prototypes drawn up and printed by the end of cycle. Get it on one of Crouchcheek's scythes as quickly as possible. We need it tested, and on those stations in case of the Armada returning. Yes, ma'am. Spitzlittle looked over a design depicting a large tube. I think the Fuimos could pilot them. Should be rather simple to convert the controls over so they can manipulate it. Quite simple, ma'am. They would probably be far more efficient with the Oblivions. Spitz-Little bobbed her ears. Get these designs in front of the Infinigan Council. Also, put in a requisition for a preserver and a lab. I want more of my people on ground here. Sending them now. They turned the corner and stepped into an airlock. Spitz-Little adjusted her suit and entered into the lab. She looked at the subdued Golok on the table. Nova stood beside her. She looked at attending Infinigan, and then at Nova. Begin the tests. The Posar berthed at the large port in the upper docks. Sam and Frith led the disembarking down the gantry toward the entry hall. Sam stopped as he walked through the large doors into the officer checkpoint. There on the other side of the checkpoint, a mass of Twanians of every species on the station had gathered. Noises of all sorts rang out through the hall as they jubilated Sam's return. Several Kawaru ran up to him as the officers finished his scan. The taller Kawaru bounced in front of him. We studied files. We want to know if we can hug. Sam knelt down in front of the brown, fuzzy creatures. You want to hug me? The Kawaru performed a practice head nod. Yes, we are thankful. We would like to touch you in a hug. Sam held out his arms. The Kawaru gently approached and wrapped their short arms around him. The crew of the Posar passed into the crowd, greeted by cheering, whistling, hissing, and a little touching as well. Sam stood back up, rubbing one of the Kawaru on the back, and smiled. You are welcome. Frith stepped up beside him, and the two walked down a misty hall. Sam touched his comm. Orbit? The purple holographic boy appeared beside him. Welcome back, sir. You were missed. Glad to be back. I saw the struts extending out. Zamudins is making progress here. Yes, sir. The new freight station design is proving efficient. Margot freighter delay is down to 10 minutes. Sam nodded. Impressive. Good. What about the water shield? How close to complete is it? Water shipments have arrived, and the last tank is filling currently, sir. Good. And any word from Sparrow? Yes, sir. Dam and Erebus have completed a star ladder, and a breathable humanesque atmosphere has been established. The Kawaru there have established a factory and are currently manufacturing the greenhouse facilities for the planet. Good. Any other updates? The Churi ambassador Smell has requested an audience with you at your earliest convenience, and the senators have started paperwork for a convening. Sam neared his door and entered into his suite. Frith followed in. Orbit reappeared on the dining room table. Welcome to my home. Frith walked around the spacious apartment. This is really nice. Here I was worried you were living in some dingy alien bungaloo, and you have a massive apartment. Look, you got a full kitchen. Sam laughed. This is all custom. I did start in a little bungaloo. I was hitting my head continuously on the low doors. Frith looked over at the liquor cabinet. Pretty sure it's past 5. Want to pour some? Sam grabbed a couple tumblers and motioned for him to sit. He poured out a couple glasses and sat across from Frith. They clinked glasses and took long sips. Frith sat his down and looked at Sam. Now what? I tried to get busy dying. Guess we go back to building our lives. Sam answered. Micah placed a pile of coins on the 00. Jeremiah looked at the bet and then looked at her. Just going to give your clams away? He laughed. Shit. We could have taken that and been drunk for the next couple days down at the bar. She shook her head and then looked at the parasite-controlled croupier. She gave it a nod, and the creature spun the wheel. The ball bounced 7 times before landing in the green 00 slot. Jeremiah jumped. Holy shit! Holy shit! The croupier counted the stacks of winnings and pushed it over to the human female. Congratulations, it said through its translator. Micah gathered her stacks. Now let's go get drunk. As they were walking away, Jeremiah leaned into her. Holy hells, how did you do that? That was amazing. She shrugged. I had a feeling. She walked up to the chip counter and had the teller convert her chips into the digital currency of the station. She nodded to the teller and winked. The two walked off toward the new hot dam. Heckletooth piloted the grabber through the wreckage around Kawaru Prime. Click-click targeted a large clump of debris with the magno-puller. Slowly, the massive floating chunk of metal neared the scavenger ship. Nash Smile used the gripper arms to secure the debris. 7 of their newly vat-grown aunts and uncles walked out onto the remains of the Golok ship in their vacuum suits. Their uncles carried modified Hummer guns, smaller so as to fit their little arms and hands. Heckletooth sent a drone to scan through the tunnels in the chunk. As it mapped the corridor, she had it mark tech items for deconstruction or repurposing. Click-Click watched the scans as well, but her focus was on wiring and power supplies. Nash Smile, with her task done, went down to the mess and pulled a fresh squishy out of the crisper and started chewing on it. Click-Click spotted a decommissioned air processing unit. She radioed one of the aunts inside. "We got a nice-looking air modifier down the hall on your left. That alone would pay for this run. I'd like you and Uncle Snaptongue to bring that in first priority." The aunt bobbed her ears. "On it, bringing it in." Snaptongue followed behind her. A body floated by. He watched it for a moment and then fired the Hummer into it. He looked at the auntie. "Just being sure." She nipped her teeth at him. A sparkle danced across her face. "I'm not stopping you. Blast away." Jeremiah was getting sloshed in the corner booth, telling stories to a Craddock and 3 other humans. Micah sighed and got up. She walked back to the bar, looking over the tall Craddock bartender. "Your kind have males and females?" she asked. The bartender sat the drink he was mixing down. It raised up its left arm and a long spear-like talon extended. "I don't think you want to find out." She nodded. "I'm good with a drink." The bartender gave a nod and finished making her drink. It then set it in front of her. She smiled and sent a tip across to his account. Micah turned and looked out over the bar. Over in the far corner, sitting alone, was one of the tower. She smiled and walked over. Asterion was looking into his drink when the human female approached. "Hey, big guy, want some company?" Asterion looked up and sighed. He pushed a chair out for her. "Feel free." She took the offered chair and sat down. "Why you over here in the dark?" Asterion huffed through his nose. She moved back abruptly at the rush of air. "I lost 4 of my men. I'm drinking for them." She dropped the smile from her face. "Losing comrades is rough. I've been there." She looked at him. "If you want, I can leave you alone." He looked her over. "No, you're good." The two drank for a while. Asterion shared the story of him and his people, and Micah told of her tours of duty and her days running a farm on Gaia. After another round, she was leaning into him. Asterion felt her warm on his shoulder. "You gotten a tour of the station yet?" She shook her head sluggishly. "Nope, just here in the casino." He huffed. "Want to check out the zoo with me?" "Yeah, I'd like to see all the animals you take care of," she replied. Asterion got up and helped her out of her seat. He flipped a tip to the bartender, and then the two walked out together. Spitzlittle sat in her workshop on the Tsar. She was staring at several holodisplays of various weapon systems used in the Battle of Kawaru Prime. She was looking over the image of her Omega in detail, clicking her teeth as she tapped her fingers on the edge of the table. "Nova!" The Infinigan hologram glowed beside her. "Yes, ma'am." She spun on her stool. "I miss my Omega. We are going to build a new one." "Yes, ma'am. I can have the box spiders begin fabrication immediately. The schematics are already in our buffers." She tilted her head at him. "No, we are upgrading. Call Pouchcheek back in and set up a meeting with the Gree of Cathu. I've got a vision I want to make. It's driving me crazy." "I understand completely. Sending comms now?" She bobbed her ears. "Good. I need to build it." She turned back at her displays, fingers tapping faster at the edge of the table.